Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil. Kumintuntum Perkun.
Hello and good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Onusabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okanse. Tonight, Chief Justice Paul Bafo-Bonny urged to release all documents and correspondence regarding recent failed petitions seeking the removal of the Electoral Commission. That's the chairperson and the deputies. We'll give you details of exactly why Dr. Ernest Nogbe is heading to the Right to Information Commission. Tonight, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOGSAG, opposes recommendations by the Constitutional Review Committee that the Controller and Accountant General's Department be made an independent agency. We'll tell you why. Stay with us. Also, inflation falls further to 3.3%, marking 14 months of continuous decline from a high of 52.8% in 2023. Stay with us. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Abdullahi Jinapor, has revealed that contingency strategies are being reviewed and strengthened to minimize any adverse effects stemming from the current geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. The minister directed the NPA asked the downstream sector regulator to intensify market surveillance and maintain close coordination with industry players to ensure any anticipated supply disruptions are mitigated swiftly and effectively. He further urged all sector agencies to maintain adequate strategic fuel stocks, enhance monitoring of international developments, and ensure stable nationwide distribution. Government has assured the public of its full commitment to protecting Ghana's energy supply security, emphasizing that all necessary measures are being explored to ensure sustained fuel availability and to reduce undue hardship on consumers. A justice of the Court of Appeal, Justice Ifya Sewa Asare-Botwe, has raised concerns about systematic failures affecting criminal justice delivery in the country. Speaking to the media in Koforidua after the Justice for All program, she called on law enforcement agencies and prosecuting institutions to strengthen their systems to ensure more efficient justice delivery.
Over the last 19 years, the program has impacted on the remand population in the prisons, bringing it down from 30.57% to 12.84% currently.
According to her,
the minority leader, Alexander Apenyo-Marking, has apologized to the Interior Minister and withdrawn claims he made about the ongoing recruitment into the security services a day after he was referred to the Privileges Committee. The First Deputy Speaker has ordered that all the remarks Apenyo-Marking made and the complaint by the Interior Minister should be expunged from parliamentary records.
I would order that the referrer to the Privileges and Immunities Committee for examination, inquiry, and reports is accordingly withdrawn. I will further direct that those words complained about said by the minority leader is accordingly ordered to be expunged from the record as if it does not exist. By so doing, the matter is put to rest.
The Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Pokuajiman, has called on young Ghanaians to combine academic excellence with discipline and strong moral values as the nation works towards building prosperity and restoring hope. Speaking at the President's Independence Day Awards ceremony in Accra, the Vice President congratulated the 52 award-winning students and described their achievements as a source of pride to their families, schools, and the nation.
Only a small percentage of our youth engage in these behaviors. However, they risk undermining national progress and sending the wrong signals about the Ghana we want. We will support schools in reinforcing guidance and counseling systems and ensuring that disciplinary measures remain firm, fair, and respectful of children's rights and dignity.
2,949 fatalities were recorded from road crashes in 2025. Of this figure, 1,345 were due to Okada-related crashes, raising concerns about riders' continued disregard for road safety regulations. The Greater Accra Regional Office of the National Road Safety Authority finds this disturbing.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. As always, proudly brought to you by Flamingo Paint, simply superior. Sasso insecticide spray and call Kum Tum Tum Preko. Coming up next on Ghana Tonight, we'll start our journey tonight from Parliament because the sitting just ended. Just some 15 minutes ago. And that's where we're going to start the journey on. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, I will tell you the happenings on the floor of Parliament today. And first off, yesterday, if you recall, Alexander Apanyumakin, the minority leader, was referred to the Privileges Committee of Parliament for a statement that he made when the president delivered after the president delivered the State of Nation address. And he earlier today apologized for that statement for which he was referred to the Privileges Committee upon the issues that the Minister for the Interior, that's Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak, raised. This is Alexander Apanyumakin's apology earlier today. Take a look.
When a member feels strongly about a statement which is unintended, the right thing to do is to withdraw and apologize to him. Mr. Speaker, I proceed to do so and to assure him that concerns that would arise out of any matter shall be properly brought to his attention. But on this matter, as I've said before, I will repeat it for Hansa, that anything related to him or his ministry is withdrawn. And again, apologies to him.
So that's the minority leader, Alexander Apanyumakin, there apologizing for that statement. And Christian Yale is our chief parliamentary affairs correspondent. He's joining me in the studio. Chris, sitting ended not too long ago, correct?
Exactly, just about 30 minutes earlier, just before we came on air.
Perfect. Now, let's start off from this point. After this apology, then what happened?
Yeah, so we had the Minister of the Interior, Muntaka Mubarak Mohammed, responding that, in fact, he was hurt when all of these issues were being raised by the minority. He had raised the issue on the floor of Parliament even before Friday when the President went to Parliament to deliver the State of the Nation address, and he, Muntaka, yesterday indicated that he had engaged the minority leader to more or less even see him in private to make all of those claims available to him, but he desisted and decided to use the State of the Nation address forum to raise the issue. So he was hurt, but yet again, because the minority leader himself had apologized, and Alfred, also because of that instance, today, instead of sitting beginning at 2 p.m., sitting began at almost 5 p.m., which means that they went into conclave to discuss this matter among the leadership. But he says that he welcomes the apology and is only telling members of Parliament to be guided going forward when they are making such utterances. So we can take a listen to what Muntaka himself also said in reaction to that.
Right. It's painful to be wrongly accused or your action to be misconstrued and be labeled differently from the intention that you have, especially when it's connoted with criminality and heavy wrongdoing. Who am I to say that I'm going to play God and I will not accept it? I accept it wholeheartedly, and I pray that this guides all of us. And if the debate or the comment made yesterday in any way was also hardship and the House decided that both or all that should be expanded, I think that may do all of us a lot of good.
Well, so that's Mohamed Muntaka Mubarak accepting that apology.
Exactly.
But because this had been referred to the Privileges Committee yesterday by the First Deputy Speaker, who also presided over the business of the House today.
Today, yes.
What did he have to say about this?
Yes, so essentially because both sides of the House had agreed that once the leader had apologized, then it makes nonsense of the referral to the Privileges Committee. And so the First Deputy Speaker, Bernard Ahiafo, based on that, dropped or reverted his referral of the minority leader to the Privileges Committee. He makes a further explanation. We can take a listen to what he said.
I would order that the referrer to the Privileges and Immunities Committee for examination, inquiry, and reports is accordingly withdrawn. I will further direct that those words complained about said by the minority leader is accordingly ordered to be expunged from the record as if it does not exist. By so doing, the matter is put to rest.
So, as the Right Honourable Bernard Ahiafo said, the matter has been put to rest. But beyond this, quite a number of things happened on the floor of Parliament.
Yes.
And even before the sitting ended minutes ago, the minority leader, Alexander Penyomaking, has also been recorded to have been making an appeal regarding the former finance minister, Kenneth Anaya Oforiatta.
Yes.
What happened?
See, Alfred, he's making a simple case that on Friday, some members of the majority caucus were seen holding placards with pictures of the former finance minister and labeling him as corrupt among other names. And that action, he says, has caused a big trauma on the family of Ken Oforiatta. You know that his brother is the MP for Fantiakwa South, Duke Alan William Oforiatta Amwakwata. And so that MP, who is a younger brother of Ken Oforiatta, has made a very strong complaint to him, the minority leader, that he has been troubled and affected by that action, and that even today, the Council of Elders of MPP summoned him, Alexander Penyomaking, to deal with this matter. So he's appealing with the majority MPs to desist from that. Let's listen to him make that case on the floor.
To the extent that the colleague is a junior brother of Mr. Ken Oforiatta, a former finance minister of this republic. No court has found him guilty. We can do our politics, but to also print his pictures deliberately. And that day, the whole world's attention was on this chamber. I would plead through my friend the Chief Whip to ensure that in future, any such action is curtailed, controlled, or stopped by him, so that this House would get the needed peace. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we don't stop it, a certain precedent will be set. Today, the Council of Elders have summoned me that marking. What about the caucus? Ken Ofori-Atta, they carried his picture and call him corrupt. What is MPP also doing? I want to assure the Honorable Duke Ofori-Atta, who has persistently, because I was not in the chamber, he still insisted that the family is so concerned that as a caucus, we have not dealt with this matter, and I had to rush into the chamber to make this plea. I don't intend to litigate it, but I am pleading with the Chief Whip and the leadership of the majority caucus that enough of Ken Ofori-Atta's name in this chamber and the persecution and the attack on his reputation. He also is a human being, a Ghanaian. He has a wife, he has children, he has extended family, and not the least, he has a brother who is a sitting member with us.
So that's the concern. And Alexander Venyawa put the summons of the Council of Elders of the NPP into a context, because then this follows what the majority did regarding the statement he made about the recruitment into the security services using that software or that platform.
Exactly.
Which the majority raised concerns and referred him to the Privileges Committee.
Exactly.
So now then the MPP Council of Elders say they also saw something with the placards of Ken Ofori-Atta during the State of Nation address.
And it seems that's been very demeaning enough, because Ofori-Atta is no mean an ordinary individual. He's someone, an exchequer of the country, has held such a high portfolio. You can do your politics like he says, but don't go on that tangent of labeling him as corrupt when no competent court of jurisdiction has ascribed him as such. But we had
a response from the majority.
There was indeed, because the majority chief whip, Roxanne Nelson Dafamekpo, was of the case. I mean, in the pidgin, they said, "Now who calls him?" Is of the view that had Mr. Ofori-Atta attended upon the invitation of Ghanaian legal authorities and come to respond to all of these, no one would have gone ahead to ask of his name or mention his name in that light. And so his simple request to the family of Ofori-Atta is that they should encourage Ken Ofori-Atta to return and to respond to some of these questions and submit himself to due process. This is what Roxanne Nelson Dafamekpo said.
I am pained. I am pained that this matter is having some adverse impact on Duke. I am pained. Yes, I am pained, because I can gauge the mood. But it's about his elder brother's conduct. Everybody's saying, come and account for us too. I believe that if he were here and going through the processes, nobody will mention his name. So on this note, I want to assure him that we will not antagonize him. Please, we will not antagonize him, especially when his sensibilities are concerned. But we want to urge him to urge his big brother to come home.
That's Nelson Roxanne Dafamekpo. There is a majority chief whip and the member of parliament for the South Dyke constituency. Christian, great stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Sitting resumes tomorrow?
Yes, 10 a.m. And because Friday is a holiday, tomorrow marks the end of this week. And so the debate on the SONA would continue as usual well into next week as well, when the leadership would conclude it.
Great. And he's going to be there to bring us everything we need to know. Christian Yale is our Chief Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association CLOGSAG is opposing recommendations by the Constitutional Review Committee that the Comptroller and Accountant General's Department be made an independent agency. Now, we're going to tell you why this position by the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, that's CLOGSAG, because this is one of the recommendations captured in the report of the Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh-led Constitutional Review Committee. But CLOGSAG has strongly rejected a key recommendation by the Constitutional Review Committee to make the Comptroller and Accountant General's Department an independent body. According to CLOGSAG, such a move would undermine and weaken the supervisory authority of the Ministry of Finance, which currently oversees the Comptroller and Accountant General's department. I'm going to take a listen to the leader of CLOCSAG, Dr. Isaac Bampuado, talking. Take a look.
What Ghana requires is not an independent Comptroller and Accountant General that could create bureaucratic hurdles for the smooth operation of the Ministry of Finance. Rather, Ghana requires an independent Fiscal Responsibility Council that would ensure accountability of both the Finance Ministry and the Comptroller and Accountant General in public financial management. The power to appoint persons to hold or act in an office in the public service shall vest in the President acting in accordance with the binding nominations of the Governing Council of the service concerned, given in consultation with the Public Service Commission.
Well, this is both a legal matter and a labor matter, and this is where we bring in Austin Game. He is a respected labor expert and then also a former member of Parliament himself. Mr. Austin Game, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Perfect. Now, the CLOCSAG's position on this matter is that their opposition to the recommendation by the Constitutional Review Commission, they want the Comptroller and Accountant General Department, which currently operates as an implementing agency of the Ministry of Finance, to remain under the Finance Ministry's administrative control, rather than being converted into an independent constitutional body. Do you side with them on this position they've taken, or otherwise?
Once again, thank you so much. And let me say that the recommendation, as you rightly stated in your intro, by the Constitutional Review Committee remains a recommendation. And all of us as citizens and also bodies other than political parties are free to air their views as a concern and also lobby where possible for people to support their views. And that's what all of us are expected to do. So CLOCSAG, maybe if we should take it that they are not taking position, and they should not take position. They simply will have to air their views, and I support them if they do so. And they also have opportunity when the time is due to go to Parliament and speak to the committee or the committee of the whole to enable them to understand their point of view. But I think that maybe it's too early for them to take a position on a matter of this nature.
I see, but let's interrogate the merits or otherwise of the position that they've taken, that instead of having the Comptroller and Accountant General's Department become an independent body, they still want the administrative control and oversight of the Finance Ministry to remain. I mean, do you see some merit in this?
Well, organograms of all organizations can always be reviewed depending upon the circumstance. I think in the view of the Constitutional Review Committee, from maybe information supplied to them, they hold the view that if it is possible to make them remain independent so that it can be a kind of check and balance, that will be fine with them. I personally do not think that that should be the way out, but it depends on maybe the white paper that will outline the total view of cabinet on this matter, if there is something like that, and then the implementation committee taking a look at it and submitting these things to Parliament. But I think that about independence, that omnibus independence of a Comptroller and Accountant General may be a bit far-fetched. And so they can express their views just like I'm doing now and not necessarily taking a position. If you take a position and others express different views, then you are heading into an arena of taking an action to support your position. That is not the appropriate way to go.
This is a position they have espoused publicly now. You would rather have had some sort of engagement, because I know that the Constitutional Review Committee engaged a number of the interest groups, including Labour, on this. And they have had knowledge of the details of the report, which concerns them. So what other avenue would you have expected them to use instead of coming out publicly through a press conference?
A lot of avenues.
Like
Indeed, this matter eventually will land on the table of Parliament for debate, and eventually some aspects will even go for referendum. And so there's a lot of, just like I have expressed my view about it, so they should also express. And I think it should be so with all citizens. We should stop taking position. Position taking is not the best way in life. If you take a position on something, then it means you are appearing before a body that is authorized to listen to you and judge the matter, such as court or an arbitrator. But if you are expressing your view on an issue of this nature, it's not supposed to be carried to that extent. I mean, that is the way to go. As a mediator, I do know that's the way to let it go, and not to make it look as if you've taken position. What about if eventually people say they don't agree with you? Then will you react in a certain way? And to react to a matter of this nature is not principled enough.
I see. Well, we'll see what the Clockstar's position will be on this going forward. But I think they've made their position clear in public as to whether they would think about other avenues, as you have just suggested. Maybe in the coming days, we'll see how they respond to your recommendations as well. But Mr. Game, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
I'm most grateful.
Great. Austin Game is a Labour expert and a former member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. But coming up next, Galamsey. But this time around, the Environmental Protection Authority, EPA, has intercepted more than 1,000 banned Chamfang mining machines at the Tema Port. The Tema Port has been the focus of a lot of activity to clamp down on illegal items coming into the country over the last at least 2 weeks. What we are seeing on the screen is the Environmental Protection Authority intercepting earlier today more than 1,000 banned Chamfang mining machines at the Tema Port in what officials describe as one of the largest single seizures in the government's intensified campaign against illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Now, the operation carried out earlier today followed what the authority said was a coordinated intelligence-led exercise involving multiple state security and regulatory agencies. A source at the EPA's Tema office indicated that the machines had been concealed in imported containers and were allegedly destined for a sophisticated syndicate linked to a Chamfang cartel suspected of contributing to the destruction of rivers and forest reserves across the country. So that's what we're learning now. There's a whole sophisticated syndicate and a cartel that were to receive these Chamfang machines that are used by illegal miners to destroy forest cover and also pollute the water bodies. Dr. Engineer Ken Ashigbe is joining us on Zoom right now. He is the convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining and also the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. Now, good evening. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening too as well.
Perfect. Now, this is one indeed that will definitely raise some questions in your mind, is it not? What is happening now at the Tema Port? Over 1,000 Chamfangs intercepted today, which, according to our sources at the EPA, was destined to be received by a cartel that have been doing this for quite a while now. it brings to mind how long this has been going on, is it not?
Well, thank you, Alfred. Again, we need to commend the EPA team and the other officers who were able to unravel this. I remember a few weeks ago, the EPA boss herself were at the port, and they then had found these chamfans that were running into thousands that were coming into Ghana, and they were going to do some investigation. So I'm happy to note that it's come down to the fact that really that's what it is, that these criminal minds have brought into this country. The interesting thing is that we know that chamfans are proscribed. So when you have situations where there are some even DCs that are beginning to collect monies from chamfans, you see where the challenge is. And so this discovery, what we are hoping that will happen is not only the fact that they should be destroyed, but also the fact that we need to find out who this equipments are destined to, and so that we can make sure that we arrest these people. The challenge is that there are some common areas in the western region, western North Ashanti region, where you see these equipments being sold openly. And I know that sometimes the EPA made some raids into these particular places, but how on earth these equipments get sold? That's the reason that gives the audacity to some of these people to be able to import these into our country, because they know that they will be able to get away with it. And they would also be able to have some MCs that, would still be out there licensing some of them. And as we speak, if you take the work that was done by Multimedia, that particular MCE who was involved in that, is still at post, though they say the Ashanti Regional Minister says they are doing some investigation. The MCA for Tano North, for example, who is signing prospecting licenses to, people who are involved in illegal mining, where prospecting licenses are supposed to be signed only by the minister. All of those people are at post. And so as we commend the EPA, we commend the law enforcement agencies that are dealing with this, we want to remind His Excellency the President that there are still some people that need to be dealt with. And so we need to make sure we are resolute in making sure we cut the head of, these evil and criminal minds who are just destroying our environment.
But see, there's a point you made, and I just want us to dwell on that a bit further. The fact that the EPA themselves, sometime in November last year, led by the Chief Executive Officer, Professor Nanama Brown Cloche, shut down 5 Chinese-owned warehouses that were actually manufacturing this chamfang at Amian Kwanta in the Ashanti region. They were storing and fabricating chamfans. This was just some 3 months ago. Should that not give us a pointer as to where this consignment is going to?
Definitely, Alfred. It definitely gives us, because most of the times, these, criminals who are, dealing in proscribed and illegal equipment do that hidden in plain sight. And you find out that you would have MCs and DCs in this particular areas who are supposed to be dealing with it. They should not wait for the CEO of the EPA to leave Accra, or the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, or NIMAS, to be able to come into these spaces to be able to deal with that. The DCE should be dealing with that. And, I have the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has written back to the coalition and to the Catholic Bishops' Conference and to even the Chamber as well. When we made those petitions to His Excellency, the President, that was referred to them. And, these are some of the things they raise in them. And in the coming days, Alfred, I will be sharing some of these. They have made references to the presidency themselves. The minister has made references to some of the other ministries, including the Ministry of Interior and all of that, local government, to be able to deal with that. But it is very important. And I know some of my some of the MCs will come back to me and say, oh, we are doing, but it is important for all of us to realize that Galamsey being a national crisis, the solutions are local. And these are MCs and our DCs should actually be out there dealing with challenges like this. Because yes, these chamfans that have been impounded, if they had not been impounded at the port, they would have found themselves in Anyakwanta and some of these places where they are sold. But again, when I speak to, I think it's the Hunter West, the DC, for example, he's also doing a marvelous job where he is. Again, he also asked those questions back to me. That these equipment that they're using, for the illegal mining, they come through our ports. And so it is good that we are now being able to block them. This government has done well dealing with the excavators at the ports. Now we're dealing with the chamfers. We need to be able to shut down supplies to these criminal mines at the port. But then as we shut the supplies, the DCs, the MCs, the police commanders, the NIB people in these communities, the EPA people in these communities, the Minerals Commission people in these communities, they also need to be working to help us to be able to deal with the challenge. Alfred, one major challenge that is also staring us in the face is the issues of cyanide. There's a lot of cyanidation that is now being done. And, mercury will kill you slowly, but cyanide will wipe, the communities away. And unfortunately, again, Alfred, it is our colleagues from Burkina Faso who are coming and are being used to do the cyanidation. And it is a major national crisis. And from us, the Ghana Chamber of Mines, we would want the national security to really look at that. There was one situation in the Ashanti region. It again took the intervention of the EPA when one of the large-scale miners reported this incident to the EPA. The EPA came into the communities, and where they were doing this cyanidation was close to a borehole. The only challenge that had saved the community from annihilation was the fact that the pump on the borehole had broken down. And that very particular day, they were planning to get a repairer to come. But when the EPA came and tested the water in the borehole, they found out the level of cyanide in that if the community had drunk it, it would have wiped them away. There was a situation where another large-scale mine had seen that. And so what they do is that they fly drones. Immediately they see it, they destroy it, or they get the law enforcement agencies to come and deal with it. When they did, and they cleared it, when their vehicles were going home, the community people were stoning them. But these community people were oblivious to the fact that this large-scale mine was saving them from death, imminent death. And so in as much as we praise the EPA and the law enforcement agencies for dealing with the issues of the chamfans, we also want to remind government, His Excellency the President, and the various MCs and regional ministers, that the issue of cyanidation, and which is being spearheaded but our brothers from Burkina Faso, is a major national security threat that needs to be dealt with and dealt with decisively.
And on that passionate note, Engineer Dr. Kenashibe, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And we're going to stay the steam on this as well in the coming days as we ask all the questions. Quite clear that the conclusion is that there's some DCEs are the weakest link in this fight against Galamsey. So thank you for joining us with your thoughts on this matter. Engineer Dr. Kenashibe is the convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey and the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. This is Ghana Tonight. But up next, the Chief Justice, Paul Bafoboni, is now being urged to release all documents and correspondence regarding recent failed petitions seeking the removal of the Electoral Commission chairperson and her deputies. And that's what's coming up next. We're going to tell you the person who is asking questions of the Chief Justice, Paul Bafoboni, who is being urged now to release all documents and correspondence regarding the recent failed petitions seeking the removal of the Electoral Commissioners. Now, the Chief Justice, as you may recall, this was on the 18th of February, as last month, concluded, based on the release that we got from the presidency, that the petitions, 7 of them, against the chief, that's the Electoral Commission chair and her deputies, failed to meet the minimum threshold required for a full-scale probe to take place. Well, Dr. Ernest Nogbe, the Ashama Member of Parliament, is asking questions of the Chief Justice, essentially, through the Right to Information Commission. This is the RTI request that Dr. Ernest Nogbe, the Ashama Member of Parliament, on the ticket of the NDC, is asking questions of the CJ. It says, I am, quote, Dr. Ernest Henry Nogbe, a citizen of Ghana and a Member of Parliament for the Ashaman constituency. We have a copy of that RTI request, so we just pulled a few of the content out so you know exactly what the request is. Pursuant to Article 21 of the 1992 Constitution and Section 18 of the Right to Information Act 2019, Act 989, I hereby formally apply to access information on the following. 1. The petition and all supplying documents that were presented to remove the Electoral Commission and her deputies from office under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. That's the first request. 2, the response to the petition by the committee. And 3, details of the decision of the Chief Justice's report. Because the committee, as you might rightly be aware, this petition was submitted to the presidency. The president referred it to the Chief Justice. Committee was established, and Esnogba is asking for some detail, and then also the Chief Justice's response in the report regarding the decision to now do away with all of these petitions because it says it does not meet the minimum threshold. But if you recall, there was a leak of one of the letters written to one of the petitioners who submitted a petition for the removal of the EC chair and her deputies. And we got to know the reasoning of the Chief Justice, reason why these petitions against the EC and the 2 deputies were thrown out. This is the meat of it. While, according to the Chief Justice, while the allegations against the EC chair and the 2 deputies raise serious constitutional and administrative questions, they do not, on their face, meet the threshold required for a prima facie determination of stated misbehavior or incompetence, warranting that a committee be set up to inquire into the petition. Essentially, the Chief Justice is saying that the petitions does not even meet the minimum threshold for a probe to even be established to look into the further details of the petition. He said the petition largely rests on conclusions of unlawfulness and bad faith without establishing at a preliminary level clear facts demonstrating intentional wrongdoing or a manifest inability to perform constitutional functions. Even if the Commission's actions or inactions are assumed to be erroneous, controversial, or suboptimal, such shortcomings do not automatically translate into stated misbehavior or incompetence within the constitutional sense. Under Article 1463, therefore, there's no basis to activate the constitutional machinery for a full inquiry and the petition fail at the preliminary stage, essentially. This is what the conclusion of the Chief Justice was. And we got this from one of the leaks of a letter that was, in fact, written to one of the petitioners. So it clearly tells you what the reason of the Chief Justice was and then what the Ernest Nogbe is asking for. Maybe we'll bring up some further and better particulars on this matter. So we wait to see how things play out. But this is Ghana Tonight. We're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, we'll tell you how inflation is playing out, the understanding of it, the impact of it, and then also how it is impacting on the cost of credit. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. Inflation falls further to 3.3%, marking 14 months of decline, consistent decline in the rate of inflation from a high of 52.8% in 2023. That's what's coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. And earlier today, Ghana's year-on-year inflation rate has declined further to 3.3%. February 2026, representing the 14th consecutive monthly drop and the lowest level recorded since the 2021 rebasing period of the Consumer Price Index by the Ghana Scale Service. So let's understand exactly what the context of what we're experiencing now is. The government statistician spoke earlier today and giving some further explanation as to the effect, the meaning and impact of the inflation rate 3.3% as we're seeing now. Take a look.
February 2026, Ghana's year-on-year inflation rate was 3.3%. Year-on-year inflation simply means how much prices have changed compared to the same month the previous year. So on average, prices in February 2026 were 3.3% higher than they were in February 2025. This represents a 0.5 percentage point decline from 3.8% in January 2026 and a 19.8 percentage point drop from the 23.1% recorded in February 2025. In fact, this is the 14th consecutive month of decline and the lowest rate recorded since the rebasing of CPI in 2021. On a month-on-month basis, inflation was 0.8%. Month-on-month inflation tells us how prices changed between January and February 2026. In simple terms, prices increased by less than 1% in 1 month. Now let's break this down. Food inflation slowed to 2.4% in February 2026, down from 3.9% in January 2026. On a monthly basis, food prices increased by 0.2% between January and February 2026. This easing in food inflation is important because food constitutes a large weight in the CPI basket and directly affects household budgets. Non-food inflation, however, rose to 4.0% in February 2026, up from 3.8% in January 2026. Month-on-month, non-food prices increased by 1.2%. So while food price pressures eased, non-food price pressures heightened moderately.
Well, so that's the government statistician. They're giving some more flesh to this inflation rate of 3.3%. It's been a consistent reduction of inflation rate over the past 14 months. This is the lowest we've seen since 2021. But then again, when all of this comes up, there's always a question about how that impacts on the real lives of Ghanaians, and that's what he's explaining. But we've seen a number of the indicators trend in the positive direction, the cedi strengthening against the dollar. And then inflation now 3.5%. Consistently, we've seen over the months, right from December 2024, fast forward to January 2025, all the way to February 2026, as we're seeing now. Joe Jackson is a financial analyst. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Jackson, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. For instance, the minority raised questions about how this inflation, consistent inflation rate reduction we've seen, sustainable it is, in fact, the impact that it is having on the lives of Ghanaians, plus the majority also referencing how important this is to the entire outlook of the economy. But from where you sit, the market player, what does this really mean to you?
It's important for us to explain that inflation is the rate of increase of prices. The rate of the prices are increasing. And so when inflation drops, it doesn't mean that prices have dropped. It just means that they are increasing at a much slower rate, rather than previously when they were going up. And that's the whole point. And it's sometimes it's tough because you hear of examples of inflation has dropped and inflation has dropped and inflation has dropped. And yet when you go to the what do you call it? The shop, when you go to the market, when you go out to buy something, you don't seem to see what they're talking about. And the example I have on the screen will try to explain what is happening. And if you join me on that explain, I would like to share with you something fairly personal. I'm diabetic. So being diabetic, I take a drug called metformin. And in 2022, I used to spend about 100 cedis on my metformin drugs per month. January 2022, 100 cedis. At the end of January 2022, inflation had gone up, boom, 54%, 54.1%. So that 100 cedis I had been spending now went up to 154 cedis, 10 pesos. In 2023, they said inflation has come down from 54% to 23.2%. But guess what? It was 23.2% of the 154 cedis as increase. So even though inflation had fallen to 54 from 54.1 to 23.2% and had come down, I still have to pay at the end of the year 189.65 cedis. Remember that at the beginning of January 2022, I was paying 100 cedis. Now at the end of 2023, I'm paying 189 cedis. 2024 was interesting because inflation didn't really come down at the end of the year. In fact, it went up marginally. It went up by another 23.8%. But guess what that means? Even though inflation seemed to be almost stick during the year, it still meant that my 189.65 cedis that I was paying for my drug now went up to 254 cedis, 39 pesos. Note, in my example, in 2022, end of year, the inflation had gone up to 54. In 2023, it had come down to 23. In 2024, it has stabilized around 23, slightly gone up marginally. But at each time, the amount I was paying for metformin was rising because if it is the rate of increase. In 2025, nice one. They say the inflation has dropped to 5.4%. Isn't that lovely? But guess what that means? It still means an increase. And so from the 234.79 that I paid for my drug, it now goes up to 247 cedis, 47 pesos. Inflation had dropped from 23.8% to 5.4%. So guess what? If inflation drops further to 3%, it still doesn't change anything. It will go up, but it will go up only slowly. Instead of going up, boom, 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 it is now going up slowly. But guess what? It is still going up.
And you see, the way you put it, it brings the matters to home, relating it to the real life experience that you are living. And I want to thank you very much for putting it this way and also referencing your own real life experience. Mr. Jackson, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Truly appreciate your time. On behalf of the rest of the team, in fact, you went ahead of me to answer quite a number of the questions I want to ask you, so thank you. As the CEO of Delex Finance, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Do have a good night. Join the New Day team tomorrow morning and also the Sunrise 3 FM 92.7 team as well. I am Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil. Kumintuntum Prekun.
This program is rated PG. It contains scenes of brief nudity, mild violence, and strong language. Parental guidance is advised.